Once upon a time, in the heart of a lush, green valley surrounded by whispering forests and sparkling streams, there lived a kind-hearted girl named Mangita. She had eyes that shimmered like the morning dew and hair as dark as the raven's wing. Mangita lived with her grandmother in a cozy little cottage built from stone and wood, nestled at the edge of the magical whispering woods. Her days were filled with laughter, simple joys, and a deep love for the creatures and plants that lived around her. Every morning, Mangita would wake up with the sun, sweep the porch, and walk into the forest to gather berries, herbs, and wildflowers. The birds would greet her with sweet songs, and the butterflies would dance around her as if welcoming their favorite friend. Mangita had a special gift: she could hear the forest speak. Not with words like you and I use, but in feelings, in music, and soft rustlings in the leaves. The trees told her when the rains would come, the flowers whispered secrets of blooming, and the breeze carried messages from distant lands. One evening, as Mangita returned home with her basket full of wild mint and forest apples, a strange and warm glow pulsed from the forest behind her. It wasn't the sun or the fireflies, but something far more magical. Curious, she tiptoed back through the ferns and found a tiny figure caught in a spider's web between two tall blades of grass. It was no bigger than her palm, with shimmering wings like dragonfly silk, and a face so delicate it seemed made of starlight. "Oh dear, you're stuck," Mangita whispered as gently as she could. She reached out and carefully pulled the web apart, freeing the tiny creature. As soon as she was free, the little being fluttered her wings and hovered before Mangita's face. "Thank you," said the tiny voice, musical and soft. "I am Larina, fairy of the eastern breeze. You have saved me, and for that, I owe you more than you know." Mangita blinked in wonder. "A real fairy," she breathed. "I've heard stories, but I never thought." Larina smiled, a twinkle in her eyes. "The stories are true, little one. And kindness like yours is rare. As a gift, I shall grant you a single wish. But you must use it wisely. Fair magic is powerful, and it listens to the heart." Mangita thought hard. Her grandmother was old and sometimes got very tired. But she also believed in the strength of nature in balance. So instead of asking for riches or beauty, Mangita looked at Larina and said, "I wish to understand the language of all living things, not just feel, but truly understand and speak to them. So I can help the forest and all its creatures when they're in need." Larina's wings sparkled brighter. "A noble wish indeed. Close your eyes, Mangita." When Mangita opened them again, everything around her buzzed with new sound. The crickets spoke in riddles, the trees hummed in harmonies, the squirrels chattered excitedly about the ripening nuts. The world was alive in a way she had never imagined. From that day on, Mangita became known as the Forest Whisperer. She helped heal sick deer, guided lost birds back to their nests, and even convinced grumpy old hedgehogs to share their burrows during storms. The animals came to trust her deeply, and the trees bent their branches slightly when she passed. But not all was well in the land. Far to the west, beyond the hills, a shadow was creeping across the forest. Trees were losing their leaves too early, streams began to dry up, and animals started fleeing their homes. The balance of nature was crumbling. One night, as the stars shimmered above, Larina returned. Her wings drooped, and her glow was dim. "The crystal of harmony has been stolen," she said with sorrow. "It was kept in the Temple of Whispers, hidden in the deepest part of the forest. It balanced the elements earth, water, air, and fire. Without it, the magic of this world will fade." "Who took it?" Mangita asked, her fists clenched. "A bitter sorcerer named Ogram. He once cared for the forest too, but envy grew in his heart when the trees no longer answered him. He believes taking the crystal will give him back his powers. But magic taken without love brings only destruction." "Then I'll go after him," Mangita said bravely. "You cannot go alone," Larina warned. "But I shall guide you, and others may help if your heart stays true." So Mangita packed her satchel with forest bread, honeyed roots, and her grandmother's knitted cloak. With Larina glowing faintly beside her, she set off into the deeper parts of the woods, where light barely touched the ground and strange whispers floated on the breeze. Along the way, Mangita met strange and wonderful beings. A grumpy owl named Tambo, who had once been Ogram's friend and knew the secret paths of the forest. A band of foxes who led her through the fog with riddles and songs. Even a lonely old tree spirit named Alia who had lost her roots in the fading magic and rode with them in the form of a wooden staff. Each step brought them closer to the dark mountains where Agram had taken refuge. The deeper they traveled, the more twisted the trees became. Flowers no longer bloomed, and the wind cried instead of singing. Yet Mangita pressed on, her heart full of courage. At last, they reached the Black Hollow, a cavern guarded by enchanted vines that hissed like serpents. Larina flew ahead and sang a lullaby of the old forest, calming the vines until they slowly uncurled. Inside the cavern, Agram stood before a broken altar. The crystal of harmony pulsed in his hand, but instead of glowing with warmth, it flickered with sharp, cold light. "You should not have come here," he said, his voice like wine through dead branches. "The forest is dying," Mangita replied. "And I won't let you take its heart." "It stopped listening to me," Agram said, sorrow deep in his voice. "I gave it everything." "Love isn't about what we get back," Mangita said gently. "It's about what we give even when nothing returns. That's when magic is strongest." Agram looked at her, the crystal shaking in his hand. He saw the way the owl perched on her shoulder, the fairy glowing beside her, the staff of Alia humming with ancient roots. He saw the forest's trust in her. He looked down, tears forming in his tired eyes. Then he knelt, and placed the crystal on the altar. "I wanted to be heard again," he whispered. "I didn't know how to ask for help." Mangita reached out and touched his hand. "It's not too late." As the crystal returned to the altar, a wave of light swept through the cavern. Flowers bloomed from the cracks in the walls, and warm wind flowed through the hollow. The vines outside curled upward like joyful dancers. Magic returned. Agram wept, but this time with relief. "I will tend to the forest once more, if it will let me." "It will," Mangita said. "It always does, when hearts change." With the crystal restored, Mangita and her companions returned through the forest. Everywhere they passed, color returned. Streams flowed again, birds returned, and laughter echoed from the trees. Larina turned to her. "You did more than save the magic. You reminded the world what kindness and courage can do." Mangita smiled. "I only did what the forest taught me." When they reached home, Mangita's grandmother was waiting with warm soup and a smile that said she knew all along what her granddaughter was capable of. The cottage glowed that night, not just with candlelight, but with the magic of a heart that listened, a voice that helped, and a spirit that would always protect the land she loved. From that day, stories of Mangita and Larina were told in every corner of the valley. Children whispered them at bedtime, and elders nodded with knowing eyes. For magic still lived in the woods. And as long as hearts stayed kind and brave, it always would.